Cool. Okay. It would really be nice if Streamline would let me actually sign into the chat properly so I don't have to jump out to a fucking YouTube window to do it, but whatever. At least I can see it. Um, so, yeah, if you weren't aware, Lucas wrote, well, not a book or I don't even know how to describe it. It was one of those ones that if you watched his old pages or read his old pages, he would go between threatening not to publish the book and saying that he would publish the book either or when he got a girlfriend. But if he never got a girlfriend, he'd never publish this like shitty book. And for the longest time, until I started like looking more into this nonsense, um, my brain was just reading it as wound, but the title is wound, like wound up. But I'm not going to start with that one because this one is more fun to start with. This is Lucas, and this is especially funny because if you remember, in the last year or so, he started railing against women who have tattoos or piercings or weird colored hair or who are into rap or R&B. Um, that'll make sense when we listen to the qualities that Wern finds attractive. This is from 2018.
Here's a list of qualities I find attractive in women: septum piercings, punky colored hair, glasses, braces, women under 26, undershaved haircuts, mohawks, tattoos if they're done tastefully, no sleeve tattoos or tattoos covering the hands or feet, Democrats, Bernie Sanders supporters, chubby girls who aren't obese, women who read Chomsky, people who are leftists that aren't communists, peaceful, anarchists, omnivores, atheists, big hips, thick thighs, ab muscles, hip hop fans who don't like anything past the early 1990s, musicians, t shirts, short shorts and skirts, familiarity with Carcassonne, Settlers of Catan, or Onitama, cooks, being the Bobby Fischer of Scrabble, black eyeliner, childlessness but wanting to become a mom, using mass transit, poets, essayists, pet owners. Not all of these are prerequisites, they're just some qualities I enjoy in women.
That was it. T-shirts, yeah, t-shirts just in general, I guess. Wow, I have apparently been watching a lot of Kit Bogo lately. So I don't know if I'm going to get through all of the shit from Wound that Lucas put up because there's a lot of them, and some of them are like 20 minutes long. He has this like 6-part rebuttal to having been on Tosh.0 as well. So this one started here with his first 15 pages, and it's 17 fucking minutes. I don't even know if I'm going to sit through the whole thing. If it's super boring, I might just like skip to the end. I've listened to these before, but it's been a couple of years, so I don't remember exactly just how boring it is. I guess we'll find out.
I guess I have to do this again because I didn't record. But I'm going to read some of the book that I wrote. It's called Wound.
Yeah, the Bobby Fischer of Scrabble.
It's something that I had to pull up from another notebook because it had other stuff in it. This is notebook 2, it's completely filled. Here's notebook 3, it's completely filled. So it's 470 pages long, written in my handwriting, so it could be like 350. I'd be happy if it was 300.
Oh. I'm sure he's thrown that away by now, but god damn.
Not sure how long I'm going to read this because I read 14 pages of it and didn't record because I'm an idiot.
Okay, like I've done dumb shit when I'm recording videos or whatnot before, but I've never gotten that far into a video and then realized, oh shoot, I forgot to hit the button. Usually I figure it out within like a minute or two, but oh well.
So let me see where I can stop.
Jesus Christ, Lucas, get on with it. Lucas, come on.
I'll just keep reading. It's going to be controversial at a point.
No, it isn't. It's just going to be boring, but okay.
But, you know, and that's actually kind of a major point in the book. But this whole book is wacky. But in a good way. So, this is starting from page 1, Wound. Imagine the year 1200 in France. The French army is about to launch a manned mission to Mars using the technology around the 13th century Western.
Wait. I'm not. He did just say like 12th century France in the 1200s there. They're going to Mars. He's right, that's wacky. That's a wacky way to start a story. All right.
The most advanced technology are the gears, pulleys, and springs in a clock tower. This is clock-punk medieval France.
Clock. I already hate this story.
A televised broadcast in the town square of Paris on a horse-powered television to produce
a horse-powered television. How did Why is the horse? Why do you need a horse? Is the horse powering the thing that's making the electricity for the television, or is television in 1200s clock punk spacefaring France required to have motion caused by a horse to flick the pictures? What the fuck? Okay, so we've got horse-powered television.
Electricity, 24 hours a day, and in case of emergencies from the royalty, from the king all the way down to the lesser royals in the monarchy. The horse walks
all the way from the king down to the monarchy. Jesus fucking Christ, Lucas. And you know what? He's on meds here. Okay, so this can't even be like attributed to him like being manic and off his meds and shit. This was when he was still in the place that was like a 6-month halfway house sort of thing, where they enforced his medication regimen. He's medicated here. Just keep that in mind. He's medicated.
Around hay on a treadmill. The horse is fed and changed out every hour. The Mars launch is scheduled for this afternoon from outside Marseille. The apparatus is a giant...
Yeah, he's calm here because he's medicated. You probably noticed it with more recent stuff. He's calm. His thought patterns never change. They're still as scattered and fucked up as they always are. But when he's on medication, he's a lot calmer and he speaks a lot slower. Doesn't make any more sense, but he's slower.
Spring 1 mile long when compressed into a tube.
Marseille. At least he didn't say Marseilles.
A large bullet-shaped projectile occupied by 2 stellar knots. The tension of the spring is simply released by unlocking the locking mechanism, sending the stellar knots into space with a gunpowder.
This is a fair ride. So he's basically slingshotting people into space with powerful springs and gunpowder. Is that? I should have probably started smoking a little earlier, then I might understand this story a bit better.
Charge in the base of the rocket. The ship to Mars drops to the surface on a parachute. The crew spends the next couple months constructing a settlement and another spring apparatus.
What the fuck?
Once the apparatus is made, the stellar knots return home to 13th century France.
How do they get back?
Luckily, unmanned missions had already sent the supplies to Mars. It's only a matter of assembly.
So they just... Whoa. Okay. So with current rocket technology, with what we have now, which admittedly is not springs and gunpowder, But it takes a good. You having fun with that, puppy? It takes a good couple of years to get to Mars. Is he implying here that his spring shot gunpowder parachute rocket can be flung out of the atmosphere, hit the speed of light, and skip on over to Mars in like 5 minutes? Is that the implication here? Because, I mean, what the fuck? Just a spring shot.
With the space vehicle. The journey took 4 months. The crew survived
4 months,
dehydrated
sorry.
salted meats, dehydrated fruits and vegetables, and dried nuts and cheeses. They drink
Futurama's at least entertaining.
well-preserved wine and flavor their palate with honey on crackers. Their meal plan is repeated on a
honey on
weekly
crackers.
scale. Their meats include dried beef, chicken, deer, pork, lamb, goat, rabbit, and trout. Their meals are dried meat from a leather pouch, vegetables from a leather pouch, crackers, dried cheese with all water removed, honey, and a glass of wine or two from another pouch.
There's a lot of pouches.
They survive. They exercise on a further level track by lifting, walking, and stretching 2 hours a day. Then are
simulated gravity
donated by the monks. They also
the monks. They're gonna read books donated by the monks. Did he just forget to introduce us to like a whole shit ton of characters?
On a bullet headed to Mars. Their mission is to assemble a way home to Marseille. The computers.
So, putting his mispronunciation of places in France aside, their mission was to go to Mars to build a way to come back to where they came from. Why didn't they just stay home in the first place? Maybe this is like the prequel of the Oliver Dangle nonsense.
They're powered by a crank as well as other electrical needs. The ship has to be wound twice a day at 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. They go to sleep at 9 p.m. and get up at 5 a.m. The ship looks a bit like a passenger train car. This is a society that is wound on the regular in order to function. Their entire civilization is cranked like a clock tower. Everything.
So they're wind-up people? Maybe that's what clock punk is.
Everything with power in it is cranked by hand. Most of Europe and Asia runs on cranking. They have computers and they have internet. Their clothing design is that of the 13th
This
century.
is in the 1200s,
Are the
by the way.
ultimate voice. The people can vote them out of power. Women can own property and as well vote. The healthcare system is largely single power, payer, and universal. The main pharmacology is naturopathic. There are treatments for such things as cancer and syphilis using a mortar and pestle that are compared to what we will know in the 2100s, and all using organic systems of plant, animal, and mineral sources.
What the fuck is he talking
They see
about?
us about 100 years behind their technology, though being 800 years ago. This is a hand-cranked world with knowledge of Earth-like exoplanets orbiting yellow stars from our own. They have a Jim Webb-like telescope orbiting Venus, powered by microwaves from a giant crank.
Powered by microwave.
With a cranker who lives with his family on the moon in a city the size of 2020 Seattle in population.
The cranker sounds like it would be a slur, to be honest.
They're an advanced civilization owing everything to spring-loaded mechanization, like we're dependent on fossil fuels. Most of their time in space over the course of 150 years has been spent on settling the moon.
This is over 300 pages.
This is their first mission to Mars. In their world, the library at Alexandria was neither ransacked nor burnt to the ground. The Antikythera mechanism and the Voynich manuscript are the basis of everything, including a book explaining the Antikythera mechanism. The translation of the book containing both and more is the Book of Everything Useful. This book is freely available to all and is held in regard in Europe and Asia higher than the Bible, Quran, the Tao Te Ching, and the Bali Canon combined. These people are basically atheists. There is no war, and they're in a state we will be in the early 22nd century. They're a confederacy of family monarchies that provide health, information, and education to the highest levels.
Does he know what a monarchy is?
with a flat tax on every economic level, including the kings and queens, at 50%, with an 80% tax on all businesses making $1 billion or more of our dollars.
Do you need to go out again? Ugh.
They have no coin.
Well, good. I get to take a mild break from him.
With automated credits called the Terrare. They have smartphones that are wound like a watch in order to work. Like everything, they have a crank. Almost everything is made up of wood, metal, or glass. Plastic does not exist like it does with us. Their smartphones are encased in oak. They do know about the Americas and native tribal people. The only presence Europe has in either North or South America is with growing trees and lumber manufacture. Many indigenous Americans live in Europe, and their tribal societies are largely left to what it was in what we knew as 17th century Europe. The Plains Indians still live in teepees, and Southwest Indians still reside in pueblos. Europe chose to leave the native populations alone, even as Europe reaches for Mars on a hand-crank mechanism closely resembling a mile-high vertically pointed 357 Magnum. There's talk of a warp drive functioning on matter to antimatter mixing with crank-driven technology to drive the particle collision rate of regulation. There are a few large hadron or quantum colliders scattered throughout Europe, Asia, Africa, and Australia, all crank-driven and energy stored in springs. There was never a need to develop solar cells for power since cranking works so well and also did not generate pollution. There aren't many power plants as each building is often cranked by workers or a shared... there aren't any power plants. There aren't any power plants as each building is often cranked by workers or a shared duty in the... Not often, always. Each building is cranked by workers or a shared duty in the case of a home as cranking duties are a shared task. No power means no business. It's important to keep a building wound. Most of what we would like to have a digital readout on clocks and timers and such are all analog. There's a street winder, aka a cranker, for municipal services like lights and signals, who often works another job as he or she only cranks every 12 hours.
And that's what I missed, but it's clearly not much. He wasted his time writing 300 some pages of this. And the worst part is, for somebody who didn't have like Swiss cheese for brains, the basic premise he had going could have potentially been interesting, but Lucas has all the charisma of a... Hell was that noise? Something beeped at me. And Lucas doesn't have the charisma or storytelling abilities to do this, at all. Can y'all hear that noise in the background? He's just destroying my dining room with that toy.
Cranks can be wound at any time, but the Terra is what we typically call Earth. Standard is to wind at least once every 12 hours to be at optimum efficiency. There's always somebody willing to wind up a floor or a room or a device, so it is no surprise that a common greeting among people, at least in the English-speaking community,
7 minutes
is wind
left.
or die. No one wants to be seen as someone who doesn't crank or wind. People in this society see non-winders like we look at meth addicts in our world, except more rare.
Like meth addicts, but rare.
Equipped with an analog timer in case the charge is running down. Passerby often wanted the public property to chip.
It's kind of surprising Lucas went with analog everything, because he's admitted multiple times in the past that he does not know how to read an analog watch. Could you imagine him trying to read an analog timer? Oh, no wonder that doesn't fit. I pulled two screens out. Silly me. But yeah, Lucas doesn't know how to tell time on an analog clock. How the hell is he going to read an analog timer? Again, Lucas writes himself out of his own fantasy world. Like every time he just writes himself out with his own requirements for how shit works. I love the fact that he doesn't notice that.
Which lessens the load of the public winder who lives on site at the winding station 12 hours a day, 36 hours a week. Devices can only be wound so far before there's resistance.
Yeah, that's how winding something works.
To the outsider, this place with this 13th
No, he can't read analog.
Earlier manner of dress would appear strange and primitive, though highly advanced. Once
hey, quit moving chairs! What the hell?
Building began to whip out within a minute. Most of the people in the cities cycle or take public transportation. Cars are about as rare on the road as public nudity in our society, which, by the way, is legal here and common in warmer months. Personal transport tends to fly between the building and landing garages higher into the air. Everything is, of course, wind up. In English, the lowest rank is a baron. A baron might manage a borough of a large city. A large city like Marseille is managed by a marquise.
Yeah, so I had to mute myself there and go take a chair away from my dog. There's a coat on one of the dining room chairs, and he decided that was an extra fun toy to grab and just drag around the room. So we had to go and put a stop to his shenanigans.
The castle of the Marquise is exactly 5 miles tall.
Marquise.
He paid 80% taxes this year because his business made $5 billion a year. This kind of take affords everyone in Terra to go to college free along with other billionaires, most of whom are royalty. The Marquise of Marseille made most of
Marquise of Marseille.
Scientific research applications, mainly in preparation of the Mars launch, and further input into warp travel, which led to better transport models across the planet, including a Mach 3 locomotive to
Why would you need to... Wait.
Faster airway
Hold up.
With self-driving post-wind.
Hold up, Lucas. Why would you need to use warp drive planetside? Does he not understand what... Puppy, you were just out, you're fine. Does he not understand what warp drive is? Puppy, you're fine, you were just out. Marquise. But seriously, fucking warp drive is to go from, planetary system to planetary system, or planet to planet within a system. You wouldn't use warp drive planet side. What the fuck? Yeah, Lucas can't pronounce words. News at 11.
As already stated, computers are everywhere. Keyboards and screens are all holographic. Many in the city attend street parties where lute, hand drum, sham, and harpsichord playing fast-paced music entertaining young and old alike. The most common type of relationship are between women and men who are 20 years older.
Oh,
women
shocker!
Begin dating when they're 16 and the men are 35.
Shocker.
There's lots of friendly conversation and romantic...
So basically, in his fantasy world, he's into child brides. Are we surprised? No, we are not.
Gestures such as hand-holding, kissing on the cheek, and the brushing of the hair from the forehead. Divorce is rare, and marriage is average, and one child being born to the couple. Most children are only children. A monk in this society performs the wedding.
Yeah, his comments are on a lot of these old videos.
The foremost vocational obligation of a monk is that of a librarian.
Why are they marrying people?
The Sunday service drawing positivity inspiration from the library. All credit is given to the universe or cosmos as the supreme mover and shaker of all things rather than to God or to the devil at all. Prayer is called thought. Faith is called thought. Works are called giving. These three together are called the triumvirate of nature. The religion is open source to change and is itself called Socrates. Only 10% of the populace follows the religion.
Socrates, huh? Every time I see Socrates, my head just says it's Socrates, and if you don't get that reference, you are too young for me. Uh, but whenever I see Socrates, my brain goes, Socrates! I should watch that movie again, actually. That's a really good movie. Yeah, after your response to that was, what? You're definitely too young for me. And if you haven't seen that before, it's from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Yeah, Socrates.
Socrates is the most popular choice. Socrates is seen as a martyr beyond any other. Socrates has no one holy book. Its source is the entire sum of 13th century knowledge. Almost everyone owns an offline copy of the Book of Everything Useful, as it is.
His weird dark eye circles make him look especially terrible in the Kindle lighting.
The basis of the entire wind-up and biological world useful to humans. The book has an entire page dedicated to a recipe for the cure for cancer.
Oh, a whole page?
The Book of Everything Useful is over 2,000 pages long. Each page solves several problems in entirety. The book has a new edition printed every 10 years with growth. The Book of Everything Useful is separate from the Socrates. The book is more like an encyclopedia that replaces religious text for 90% of Terra. Most people still hire a monk for marriages and funerals. Both largely take place at home or a public meeting hall like a lodge or a park. The most popular time for a wedding is in the summer, on a paddock where others can watch.
How is this like part of a book? This is like somebody trying to describe a really shitty D&D campaign that you know is just going to be railroaded. Like, how is this a book? Does he not know how books work?
Receptions are kept private like today. When a monk is hired for a service, they're usually asked to read from the Book of Everything Useful as a reminder of one good thing about humanity. The onlookers.
So at the wedding, the officiant is supposed to read from an encyclopedia? Okay.
Nod and say, or that's very interesting, as a show of respect for human progress.
That's very interesting.
The service then concludes with written vows and the trading of bracelets instead of rings.
Could you imagine a society where if you were just like trying to get out of small talk, it was like, that's very interesting. That's very interesting. Lucas, just kind of a tip in case he picked this up because people were doing the nod and, oh, that's interesting to him while he was talking. They're not listening.
The bracelets are identical to the one given to the spouse. Bracelet choices are myriad. This culture thrives on metal, glass, and wood, so
it's like the plots to all his board games.
Materials.
God.
Precious stones are not valued as much as sentiment.
Precious stones are not valued, so they're not precious stones if they're not. Oh my God. Lucas, do you think they're scientifically called precious stones? Oh, fucking Christ. If you ever wondered if he's always been stupid, the answer is yes.
Couples here are much more romantic and talk to each other continuously.
That sounds horrible.
They find common ground everywhere. The average age of marriage is 16 for the females and 36 for the men.
Well, that's Lucas's age in this video.
With school being free, people are more at liberty to follow their dreams. When it comes to mating, men are endlessly attracted to young women, and women are magnetically attracted to mature older men. The public dances serve as impetus for pursuant love.
Public dances.
Friday is a well-regarded day to which there's almost always music playing in the city square for the people, paid for with taxes where people meet and congregate. The only things costing money are food, drink, and smoke. The fuel is medieval and futuristic. The technology is everywhere and quiet due to no internal combustion or humming machines.
Okay, this is a very boring story.
So that's the first 15 pages of my book, Wound.
God, that was the first. That was 15 pages. Oh, God, the other one's even longer. Why are these the only long videos on this channel? Oh my God. I'm definitely not going to get through all of these, but let's start part 2.
Wound. Pages 16
Oh,
through
greasy.
31 by Lucas Werner. The loudest noise is clicking, if anything. There are sometimes bells.
Puppy,
This is a
you were just out.
voices carrying on
Oh.
and otherwise by
He might want to just go play outside by himself for a while. I'm going to just mute me and let him out.
The horse and carriage was phased out in centuries past. There's little clomping hooves. There's no worrying engines. Things are rather peaceful. Marseille and Clockpunk 1200 is no more dangerous than an encased wound-up spring. The night and day watch are not there to arrest anyone unless things go awry. You could say the only real threats at any given moment are arguments and theft, which are rare and helpless in both cases, ending in a quell before anyone is hauled to a neighborhood brig for a 2-hour detention for a first violation in a 24-hour period. Justice is swift, fair, and infrequently a debacle. Some are generous to where good, hot, free food is given away every day for no charge. Knowing the right places guarantees hunger is a scarce problem. Everything with power is either hand-cranked or animal-driven for show. Much of the equipment only takes a minute for a 12-hour charge, which isn't much when compared to gasoline, and all without a waste product or occupied space like with solar and wind power. There are no cords. There are no plugs. Airplanes to office buildings are powered by winding like with watches and clocks. The only way to tell it's the 13th century is the clothing, music, and entertainment. As the Mars ship Archimedes II, Un being the ship used for the moon, begins to launch, a 30-06 bullet custom fit for a 357 Magnum, men and women wipe tears of joy from their eyes. Back at home, a winder strolls or bikes through the neighborhood, or maybe even a few, to make sure each house gets a full wind every 12 hours to make sure their refrigerators, etc., are at nominal cranking. A red light on the home indicates a wind is needed. A green light indicates the charge is full beyond 6 hours. Each house needs a wind at least every half day.
Well, this looks horrible, and I'm glad I missed it. Yeah, I may have to mute myself and wander off again when he starts barking. He wants to play in the snow, and it's like 10 below, and I do not want to play in the snow. But I can see him like turning around and looking out the window, and he barks when he wants to come back in. So
all this prevents outages. There is no power grid. Every home is self-sustaining with care from homeowners and neighborhood winders whose only job is to give a walkthrough twice a day. Again, winders often have a second job. Winding is not a highly paid profession, but is incredibly respected. The Mars-bound craft, Archimedes II, is now launched and streaming through the sky, where it will first dock with the space station Gear International and sprung directly at Mars. In a 4-month propel towards the red planet. The ship has everything needed for the venture on
yeah, I bumped the key.
In dimension, the ship looks exactly like a 30-06 rifle bullet, and the launcher like a 357 Magnum. The launcher is a chamber exactly.
He picks the most basic ass guns and weapons to use here.
Roughly a mile long. The ship is pointed at the top and wider at the bottom. The ship itself is 2 football fields long, or 200 yards, which is smaller than a bullet compared to the gun.
Look at his
There's
hair.
a mining operation on some of the asteroids in the asteroid belt for palladium because the current space program ostensibly relies upon titanium. The current projection is 50.
So why are they mining something that's not titanium? God damn it, Lucas.
15 to 20 years to send an unmanned warp vessel to set a series of rovers.
Oh, guess who's barking to come in already?
B, after a year-long journey 4.2 light years away. The venture will break the light speed barrier using antimatter, which is created by colliding photons together and containing the positrons with a quantum magnet repulsion charge. The sound of the Mars launch would be deafening without a silencer tip on the launcher. Even with the silencer, the squeak is as loud as the close-range whistling from a very big bottle rocket. The only thing to compare the thrust yipe to is a sexually aroused Costa Rican howler monkey multiplied by 20 in decibation, and only lasting a second like the aforementioned bottle rocket. Launch technicians call it the launch squeak. Everything, including the rocket, has a French chateau of look because, well, this is 800 years ago, despite the many technological advancements. To the level of 22nd century Earth in our timeline, it's still the 13th century. People are generally quaint, even though religion is as popular as atheism in early 21st century America and has a non-theist worldview. Women are often billionaires in clogpunk Europe, though tend to be shy and easily charmed by romance from extroverted men. Fast food is non-existent. There are no billboards. The food is rustic. The night and day watch are their version of police and really have more in common with knights, though. Metal armor is less favored than leather external padding. There aren't guns. Many citizens carry knives and swords, as do the watch.
He looks so sweaty in this, and it's just so gross.
It's like walking into a Renaissance fair. There aren't a lot of bright lights other than the street lights that utilize a glass-covered orange flame fed oxygen from a pipe system and is made of wood instead of metal. Almost everything is made of wood.
A wooden fire lamp, that's a great idea.
It's made of titanium. It's distinctly 13th century French because it is 13th century French. There's a real local pride in everything. If the food isn't French, the people typically take the Mach 3 maglev train to that country to enjoy their local cuisine.
What?
You can tell just by looking at the train that it's French, even though it travels 2,283 miles an hour.
Why were those two thoughts put together? I mean, even though it travels 232 miles an hour, it's obviously French. What? I don't understand the implication here. Like, are French trains notoriously slow in comparison to someone else's in this world?
From Marseille to all over France,
Marseille.
And Europe, with expansion to Asia and the Middle East.
Just Asia and the Middle East, no specific country.
The ship is by the most measure of a wood construction. In zero gravity accelerating, a ship only takes a push with a tightly wound spring. The rest is up to the lack of gravity in the vacuum of space. Packaged foods are the norm of spaceflight. Packaged foods exist nowhere else.
Didn't you read this already?
Quaint life favors fine and rustic cuisine. The Stellarnauts are making quite a sacrifice. This is the last slow journey into space. Once the antimatter goes online in a predicted 2 years, humans will be inching towards a warp craft.
But he said in the last 15 pages that there was already warp drive and they used it planet
The
side.
amount needed will take 20 years to produce, 15 if the funding is provided by a fast-track program, and monarchical curiosity is piqued enough to allot the tax collections to science. The hounding for research and development is a common zeal among royal lines, since the paparazzi puts them up for surveillance to the populace, whom can and do elect to terminate their services at any time.
You don't elect monarchs.
Nuanced progress in the favor of logic, reason, and knowledge, commonly reflected by monarchs afraid to lose their positions of prestige through video surveillance into their daily lives.
His beard looks like a rash.
To keep the wealthy in check to their subjects, and so much as a monarchy can sustain the will power to be equilateral and Socratic methodology, and to avoid a coup d'etat.
A coup d'etat.
Socrates has been a religion for 1,700 years.
Socrates?
The most popular religion on the planet. It teaches logic, reason, and knowledge as the highest values.
So you're Vulcans.
Does not speak of any spirit or God. The
So you're
religion
Vulcans.
itself is only followed by 10% of the population.
You're just like ripping off Vulcans.
The entire public library system, and are highly respected across 4 continents for their meticulous attention to time. As the name suggests, the religion is a tribute to Socrates and has over the millennia progressed the culture through veneration.
I don't think Socrates would like that.
Though not the worship of Socrates and the ideals of Socratic reasoning as a means of viewing the world. The religion, and all religion, has fallen out of favor simply because
Then why are you
people
calling it
already
religion?
well educated in school, and Socrates is thus redundant.
I love that he talks about school so much when he actually didn't finish high school and can't manage to get a GED. He sure hell isn't going to use any free education. He's tried before, and he's flunked out from that, too.
Christianity and Islam never existed. Buddhism, Hinduism, and Judaism maintain a small following in the order of less than 1% each, and are largely...
Oh, well, gee, he let the Jews continue to exist. That was nice enough.
Considered. 2% of the population follows Brujeria, which means witch, most of whom live in Spain. 1% are Shinto, which surprisingly has a large following in Germania and has grown to have many shrines even in France, whose followers worship ancestors and use the Tao Te Ching for guidance.
Why is Germany the center of a very clearly East Asian religion?
90% of the planet is atheistic and live normal lives with a strong ethic towards kindness as an ethos to always strive to help those in need and to be happy, as life only gives you one shot to be loved and to follow one's dreams. Socrates teaches a similar message, but again, so do the schools, which makes the religion irrelevant. Marriages and funerals can be
oh my God, it's even half done.
Which are finalized by the government of the royal estate. The people can veto even the king and queen of France. Almost every
but just the king and queen of France.
Because smartphones are all over the monarchy.
But smartphones are
directly democratic socialist royalty on a democracy. The monarchy replaces politics.
Democratic socialist monarchy. What the? He doesn't know what a monarchy is. That's the only explanation. He doesn't know what a monarchy is.
And the political system is completely beholden to the will of the people 24 hours a day. Their charter is built upon
this is worse than the assembly.
Unalienable rights that cannot be changed. Murder is illegal, period. Rape illegal, period. Slavery is illegal, period. These are unamendable situations.
This is the first draft of the assembly.
In a people's democracy. A subject has every right to remove a king. A king cannot execute a subject even for the crime of murder. The stiffest sentence is life imprisonment only for the crime of murder. The law applies to a king as much as a subject. Royalties serve in assembly for life unless the people vote them out. The royals serve as senators.
It's not a life appointment if you could be voted out.
There are clearly more people than the royalty.
Then why have royalty?
France was previously just a regular citizen. Princess Beatrix Amalia Camilla.
Wait, whoa.
Royal Highness.
Wait, we got characters? Wait. Back up.
The Queen of France was previously just a regular citizen. Princess Beatrix Amalia Camilla Montaigne, Her Royal Highness Queen of France.
Who was that?
King Reginald, etc. Born simply Elizabeth.
King Reginald, etc.
For less than a year. The Queen is 19 and the King is 39. This is average for clockpunk 13th century France, ahead of the landing of humans on unpopulated Mars once the spring ship gets there in 4 months. The royal couple met at a neighborhood dance last summer and go to mingle once a week every Friday.
The king and the queen, future king and queen, sorry, prince and princess, met at just a neighborhood dance around Marseille, where the hell that is. Just a neighborhood block party like, all royalty has all the time. It's totally normal.
They were married on the winter giving day of the winter solstice on December 21st of that same year. Even though she is a royal now, she's still in attendance at a local community college. She only gets her
Aim high, lady.
as Queen Beatrix during official matters. She still gets called Elizabeth Camilla in school. There's no, I'm a queen, I should get shenanigery. The people can vote to make her ride the bus if they want.
Huh?
Beatrix often does take the local transit system and remain close to her friends. There's sort of a shunning of money in the royal cooperative, encompassing every nation on earth. There's much in the way of a mixed ideals. Most of the royals actually do transit while living in very large castle-esque skyscrapers.
What?
The King's Castle stretches 5 miles into the air. It's the tallest building in the cooperative.
I'm sorry, 5 miles into the air?
Marseille lives in a 5-mile-high building as well, which is also one of the tallest buildings, I should rephrase that. All the buildings for the building are 5 miles tall. Marseille is the scientific center. I'm going to do it quickly. Marseille is the scientific center of Earth. Many times royals will live in the same building for life. The king and queen live in Paris. The Marquis of Marseille holds a doctorate in temporal physics. His primary specialization is in faster-than-light time displacement. He commissions the primary chair in physics at the University of Marseille. He's kind of like Elon Musk meets Stephen Hawking. France is further divided into principalities from the principalities of north, south, east, west, and central France, which are further divided into duchies, counties, municipalities, or cities, and baronies, which are boroughs. 4 of the principalities are run by the king's siblings and step-siblings, and 1 principality is run by the oldest cousin. Incest is strictly forbidden and has been for centuries. The royals together are called the House of Royal Senators. This is often shortened to the House. The people together are called the representative subject populace. This is often shortened to the representation
This is worse than Oliver Dangle.
Royals often call the people by the term representative, and people often call the...
Oh, sorry, I have a mechanical keyboard. It's just really loud.
The subjects and royals often dress in the same manner of clothing by the mercantile class, middle class of 13th century France. The castles almost always serve as hotels.
Why?
They also serve as televised assembly halls for government work. The people and the royals together are called the Cooperative Assembly, or just the Assembly. The castle...
So this is a first draft to his assembly thing. I thought he didn't do first drafts.
In comparison to everything else in the castle is 5 miles into the air, while the next tallest building is around the Archimedes launcher is the next tallest building is around 1,000 feet. And the Archimedes launcher is 5,280 feet, or a mile. Most buildings don't surpass the 500-foot mark. The Royal Cooperative avoids metric for the Royal Standard of miles, feet and inches over kilometers, meters and centimeters. Castle Marseille functions as a royal living quarter, business, offices, city hall, hotel, university, research facility.
This is so convoluted. Also, did you notice that he's getting out of breath laying on the floor talking? This is like worse than the assembly.
Gymnasium, warehouse, farmers market, like a large-scale shopping mall. Royals and subjects mingle together on the regular. The populace keeps a strong tab on royals with their cell phones, as does the press. Making nice with the royals means you yourself can become a royal yourself by marrying one, while making nice with the subjects can keep you a royal cobblestock out of prison. There's plenty of de facto regulation on neither side, keeping the menagerie in the wellspring of everyone. Order and joy has become resolute by technological value.
I really high-key hate his hair in this one. Like, this is the worst Lucas hair.
The classroom. There are no private schools,
God, how much is left in this one?
Planes, or much of anything aside from living arrangements in the Royal Cooperative. It's important to get along to avoid a violent political revolution.
It's important to get along with your friends and neighbors.
Shake-ups. The current King of France was the seventh in line to the throne. The
current King of France was seventh in line to the throne.
For his coaxing to the fifth cousin, whom was the previous King of France, in the area of urging for funding to the Marquis of Marseille. The Mach 3 locomotive and the Archimedes.
Does he even know what Archimedes is most well known for?
When King Reginald took office, he did so on the House of Royal Senators at the age of 32. When King Sebastian abdicated to the royal house with the long publicized.
So currently the dog is looking extremely, extremely sad on the couch, because I turned around and saw that he had snuck a roll of paper towels that I forgot to put away and was shredding it. I didn't get mad at him. He's a puppy. It was my fault. I left it where he could get it. But I just got up and quietly, asked him to give it to me and took it and put it away. And he followed me back in here, and he's laying on the couch, hugging the squeaking ball and looking at me like I just murdered all of his siblings and parents in front of him or something. Puppy, you're a good boy. You just don't need to shred an entire roll of paper towels. You have other things to shred. You're a good boy, I promise. He just looks like he's going to cry. Back to Lucas.
Favoritism of Duke Reginald. As a Duke, Reginald governed.
Let me take your power. You're inside. You don't need to wear it.
There isn't much different from the royals and the subjects. Everyone is expected to utilize the same public spaces. The royals are indeed the wealthiest in the land, but that money is in part supposed to help the subjects in ways logical and obvious.
Oh my God, it's not done yet.
Wealth hoarding is highly frowned upon when so many gears, springs, and pulleys make modern 13th century space-age life possible. It's become a game for the senators to find ways to spend money on the public good. Lawmakers have grown to enjoy philanthropy and altruism. Even the king is called senator, and he's...
Then he's not. If the king isn't called if he's called a senator, he's a senator.
The king had Archimedes do and the Mach 3 built. This king has spent 7 years in office.
Does he think Archimedes was famous for building fast trains? Does he know who Archimedes is besides the owl and the sword and the stone? Probably not.
Heaving necessities on French education reforms and groundbreaking.
You have to know it's in the past for some reason.
Scientific research into faster trains and ships. The Champagne Hadron Collider, largely discovered
Hadron
and subsequent containment. Archimedes' Dwa will travel twice the speed of light thanks to King Senator Reginald. The matter of fast tracking for their expenditure is up to the people, but if it's
Hadron,
but it's forethought to be a popular measure to pass from the subject representation.
What an awkward place to end that. Great. You reset my thing. God, his thumbnails are the worst. I went too far. God, that was only part 2. Part 3. Oh, God, okay. That's attractive. Oh my God. I was wondering what his shirt said. I wish I didn't know. He made that himself, I bet.
Pages 32 to 47. Archimedes has docked.
I don't know what he's trying to say, but I'm hearing it as Archimedes duh. That shirt's the worst. Yeah, he's breathing like he just ran a marathon and all he did was lower himself onto the floor.
With the space station of the Royal Cooperative, also known as Gear International. Today has been a successful and historic day. The next phase after a brief layover in low Earth orbit is the springboarding of the ship to Mars. Upon loading into the space station,
he sounds like his own story is boring him.
Long launch chamber and a replacement of an oxygen-free blasting cap that safely ignites with hydrogen in the base for a more energetic propulsion blast towards the target 35.4 million miles away. The space station dock is to load the ship with supplies for Esteban, whom is from Spain, and Meredith, whom is...
Did we all catch how Lucas said hydrogen was a safer flammable catalyst than oxygen? Wants to be a scientist.
From France. Sex is strictly forbidden in this mission, though highly unlikely. Though all is videoed and broadcast to the internet, yet not probable since Meredith Garamond is 76 years old and Esteban Alvarez is 28. Just in case, even their going to the lavatory is broadcast live down to Earth. Their very jobs depend upon appropriate behavior. It should be noted that both Stellarnauts are married to their spouses on Earth, and a ticker...
Can we just stop to remember that Lucas just, as a point that he wanted to make very clear, said that even when the people on this ship go to the bathroom, it's filmed and beamed back to Earth. Keep your damn fetishes to yourself.
Cape Parade will not likely stem from sexual passion between the two. Doctors Alvarez and Garamond understand maintaining a respect for the position of stellar-nomical academics as very well-regarded educators across the cooperative. Alvarez and Garamond are much sought-out television guests and have been for years. Garamond was the first to accelerate a photon faster than light and to stop light particles completely. Alvarez discovered Proxima b was the nearest rocky planet in the habitable zone of its home star. Both these contributions will help along Archimedes 2 to be launched in a speculative 15 years. The cooperative only sends its best.
This is so dumb.
King Reginald barely went out during the first 6 years of his reign. Until he met Elizabeth, he was a virtual shut-in, except for official transpires
So he was like
of
you?
governance. He did everything in his personal section of the royal castle of Paris. The people liked him. He's sometimes called the people's king of science. He holds no degree other than a high school diploma. Reggie did and still does a science program on French popular broadcasting where he narrated
Reggie.
from a script. It was his older sisters, Duchesses Lorraine and Hamea, who urged him to go to the Friday dances until he found someone. At 38, he found the 18-year-old Liz, a college student studying nursing at Seine River Community College. 6 months later, they were married and she became a queen and a senator under the highest scrutiny other than
Is she a queen or is she
king
a senator?
by the subject representative populace that leads the assembly. Queen Beatrix is well liked. Her ultimate goal is to become an RN and work as an RN while not neglecting her senatorial duties with her cedar wood encased smartphone. Smartphones are slightly heavier than we know them. Instead of plastic, they utilize wood, glass, metal, and a fiber polymer constructed out of seashells and feathers, which is their equivalent to plastic. They can produce a holographic readout if needed that can only be seen on the face but not on the back.
What?
They also have a much greater computing speed than even a home desktop.
What?
This technology won't be available on our slice of the timeline until around 2100 AD.
That's fine, I don't want a
Internet is
wooden
everywhere
phone.
for free via phase light Wi-Fi. All storage is thrown to a cloud system with unlimited data storage. You might find yourself wondering why 1200 AD Earth is at the level of advancement of our current understanding of a speculative 21 AD Earth. It all took a divergent turn in 48 BC, Alexandria. After the failed sacking of the Library of Alexandria by Caesar, there was a dramatic push for science, math, literature, history, art, and all educated studies. Calculus ended up being invented 800 years before Newton.
The cat has joined me and walked across the keyboard. Don't go on the keyboard again, please.
Under King Charlemagne. Jesus and Muhammad were never reported as existing. Socrates was martyr enough, and after years as a philosophical school of thought, Socrates eventually bursted onto the scene for religion. Much like punk rock didn't fully take grasp on radio for years until Kurt Cobain popularized the genre.
Excuse me? Oh, no. Okay, look. Nirvana was a big thing when I was in middle school and high school. I like Nirvana. They're a little overrated, but I like Nirvana. Punk music's been around since the 70s, you stupid, fat little fuck. God. You say that kind of thing around actual punks and they're still probably likely to kick your ass. Kurt Cobain made punk popular. Jesus Christ. He probably doesn't. He thinks Nirvana started punk, apparently. Or made it popular, sorry. What if... since we're the same age, I'm gonna pull the same insult I would have used on someone back then who said Nirvana was punk, and I would have just called him a poser. But you gotta spell it with E-U-R, because that's how the cool kids in the 90s spelled it. Kurt Cobain. That makes me just want to punch him. In Nirvana, it was more grunge. That was the scene that they kind of held and Now, you're not going to try to pick that cat up in your mouth because she's not going to like that. All right, you can sniff her. That's fine. Lucas loves Tool, by the way. Don't know why. They're another kind of overrated band, too, but they're not horrible, I guess.
By 1000 AD, most of the world was in a direct democracy, in conjunction with the royalty, along with spaceflight leading to the settlement of the moon in the mid-12th century. By 1200, sex with males under 35 years old was prohibited by law on the king's 35th birthday in 1196.
Mm-hmm.
Male reproductive telomerase was found to give offspring stronger DNA in 1188. As inbreeding was prohibited along with incest in the early 10th century, the case was a clear comparison to sociopathic breed from incest configurations that also lead to mass violence and disease requiring...
There's not that much difference between incest and inbreeding. One leads to the other.
...remedy intelligencing even after the squash of incest, as well as pedophile pregnancy leading to similar biological malfunctions.
That's my very specific there, buddy. Hi, puppy.
The Friday dances became popular in the king's infancy as a childhood duke before he could serve as a senator shortly after the formalities of turning 16, when his ascension declared him an adult within the cooperative, and he was bestowed the honor of Senator Duke at 16, is the age in which a person becomes a woman or man in the royal cooperative. The dances introduce women who are at least 16 to men who are at least 35. This might seem strange to us, but they'd be baffled by 27% of our civilization is diagnosed as mentally ill, why greed wasn't regulated and
regulated. Goddamn
would
Ferengi.
immediately tie the lacking sperm telomerase from older males to why we hadn't settled the moon or why we weren't on Mars by the second decade of the 21st century if the pollution in the water, land, and air didn't kill them first after gasping for breath like a crash landing into the sick, claustrophobic atmosphere of Venus.
I think you'd do more than cough in that atmosphere,
but in vitro. That is, butchers took a slice of the animal thinner than a rolling paper at a translucent shred as big as a male pinky fingernail and grew the cut of meat at exacting specifications within 30 seconds.
Christ.
One chicken could feed thousands at one
That's a hell of a chicken.
scrape of the skin. Now they have all that DNA data on hand along with the raw sources to complete a full cut of meat from material found in garbage.
Oh boy, just what I want. Chicken comprised of garbage.
Neither are plants.
Hey, don't do that.
Life expectancy of humans is 153.
Don't do that. Puppy.
In our timeline, a mean lifetime at the height of the average is 84. The still or nots don't factually eat dehydrated food. That was an anachronism written at first in a misunderstanding. The proper causeway is that they eat recycled food just like everyone else. They have a year's supply of raw trash smashed and pulverized into a silver ooze like we might expect to see masticated by a food processor with a very fast and sharp blade. Mars has to have still or nots to both assemble the return launcher with a button press set up a habitation for 20 researchers and to actually set foot on Mars, something humans have yet to do in either timeline. Nothing captures the human imagination quite like doing something. The moon has a population of 500,000. The Royal Cooperative has been on the moon for 50 years.
Dude, the moon is huge. It could hold more than 500,000 people, and after 15 years, what is that, like the equivalent of you're going to visit a farm? This sounds like it would be like one of those crack episodes of Star Trek that like nobody could figure out what the producers were thinking when they decided to go ahead with the plot.
They settled. We did not. We went back home and perseverated on a useless war over fossil fuels.
Perseverated.
They never relied on pollutants for energy. They wound up here like a clock. We gassed out for 50 years. This is why the Royal Cooperative is 100 years more advanced than modern-day industrial Western democracy. 1,200 years past Caesar when we're 2,000 past. The city on the moon is called Title. They have a baron, baroness, and 2 grade school-aged children with the titles of Lord and Lady, along with representative subjects that together have more power than the nobles in their vote. They all conflagrate every Friday night with their kids and grandkids over food and music in a faux outdoors dome adjacent from the rest of the town. There are frequent rocket launches back to Earth offered once a week. Tedalians are given 6 weeks free hotel stays a month at any castle on the planet.
What the fuck is this?
There is a launch to Terra, otherwise known as Earth, once a week. The kids are only allowed to travel to Terra in the Northern Hemisphere summer because of school, but that does give 12 weeks. Children on Terra and the moon are given the right to switch families to learn about the world.
You can just switch families.
Colleges before graduation. The moon is named Luna.
Oh wow!
It has junior high school and it has a junior high school and 2 grades. It has a junior, senior high school and 2 grade schools.
You notice how he edited that to include seniors because he realized he would get pegged a pedophile if he just said middle school and elementary school. That was a big old Freudian slip right there.
There are no colleges on World. Terrans do not allow online schooling.
Terrans sound like those asshole mirror universe people. Maybe that's why I don't like them.
Since travel speeds are so rapid and taxation makes all schools free as long as grades are kept at an average of beta.
So what do you get fined if they're not?
Looking into gamma is a compulsory time to be tutored.
A compulsory time to be tutored.
Improvement to at least beta from gamma, delta, or epsilon. One more low quarter resorts in further tutoring. Alpha level students are shopped around to potential employers. They also get Ferrari to spend. Alpha plus students receive about $1,000 a month.
So Lucas would like never have any of this.
$500. Alpha minus students receive $250 as per our currency conversion to US dollars. College is very important to the
He's wearing a t-shirt he made himself that says "Got telomerase" on it.
Terran lifestyle and is the only way to find work. There are many homeless shelters for the unemployable to mingle with the unreasonable. You are guaranteed a stipend like...
So he admits if you're unemployed, you're also unreasonable. Stands to reason he was pretty unreasonable while he was homeless.
All citizens of $1,000 cash and $200 food for missions on a beneficiary card each month.
No, that's not the $1 million shirt. The $1 million shirt was, like you see those bumper stickers or shirts that have coexist written in various religion symbols? Well, his was basically a derivative of that, but it said conversation instead of coexist. And he like legit was trying to sell that for $1 million to somebody. There's some blurry old pictures and old videos from his Facebook where he's wearing that shirt, but you have to go out and pee again? Where are you finding enough water for this? Because I know you haven't been out there drinking. I mean, great, I don't want pee in my kitchen, so I'm going to let him out, but goddamn. Anyway, I'll turn this disgusting, fat, greasy fuck back on and go let my dog out again.
Everyone receives this bare minimum, whether homeless or not. Shelter beds are not luxurious, although you will sleep well until 6 a.m., as long as you can stand a 10 p.m. bedtime. Your day can be spent walking around or in the sitting section feeling alone and lonely. Most of the homeless are the males past 50. Most of the females are addicted to coca leaves and opium poppies. All drugs are legal for people 16 years old and older. Even the ones that destroy the body and mind are unprohibited. It might be wise to reach that beta at the college level. You can get a girl with drugs, or you can get a girl by saving your body and mind. College doesn't sound all that bad. Those Friday dances don't always mean you'll find love. Patient observation does mean that you'll probably find you. Men under 35 can't have sex. That does restrict the male selection. Since this restriction went into place, an entire sex bot industry was wound up to keep younger males entertained and out of the way. Younger males are present at the dances, but the watch keep the young males separated from touching or talking to the females unless one is buying food or drinks from the other. There is a fair share of citizen monitoring going on, since relations with males under 35 is an act of pedophilia, criminal level 2, which guarantees imprisonment for no less than 10 years. There is no appeals court in the cooperative. You serve your term. Pedophilia level 1 is sexual congress with anyone under 16 and carries a 25-year sentence. Rape, murder, and theft or any variation rape, murder, and theft carry various levels of punishment. Treason is not a crime when there's a one-world government. The royals are considered a family. As incest is illegal, the royals have to marry a subject. The King of Belgium is married to an Ethiopian tribal chiefess as sort of a scoff at how far the law has gone, because technically that is a marriage between royals. But the king had always been a rebel. He tried to remove England from the cooperative unsuccessfully for 4 years. He was almost deposed were he not so entertaining. The Queen of Germany married their gardener when she was 18 and he was 40.
God, I walked back into this.
They've been married for 114 years.
Ooh.
Citizens talk about those old days of intra-ageism, no different than either timeline belittles incest. They call it age-cest. It carries as much weight in degradation as we chastise rednecks and hippies. We are talking about something that breaks DNA here. There isn't anything in the discussion to where you can compromise over incest. People who have sex often fall in love. People in love often want to have kids. Inbreeding damages the whole of society. Older fathers were proven to give kids stronger DNA. The Terrans are genetically no different from humans. These people are 800 years beyond us. With humans currently walking on Mars, the Royal Cooperative is bolstered more in peace through the last real war was 400 years ago, during the conquest of Charlemagne, until he learned of Socrates, and conquests were against reason in terms of human life, seeing other outlets for belligerent violence, such as international sports that help bond warring tribes and later warring nations through competitive play. Kingdoms formed on mutual respect for their serfs. Empires formed of kingdoms, and empires united into the cooperative with respect for self-governing semi-sovereign monarchies under a shared banner, united by a charter voted on by the royal subjects in a joint representation with the royal senate. The cooperative does have one leader.
And it's not...
They're called the Pharaoh.
Oh, for
There was
fuck's
careful
sake.
regard to have an odd number of kings and queens. Television and movies are different in the cooperative. All cinema and serials are performed live on a stage and captured on digital camera. All advertisements cut to the local affiliate where they act the ads out for local venues and eateries. Most people make their own food from raw ingredients. Prepackaged food and fast food is non-existent. The restaurants are all real sit-down restaurants. Every person gets a stipend just for living. Eating out once a week on this stipend is very possible and nearly impossible to avoid.
He's talking about his own finances here. Yes, honey, you can chew that box. But this was his own finance. You're like, I make enough to go out to eat at least once a month. We could go out to dinner once a month. And then he went up to once a week, and yeah.
It's possible. There are food banks to where
It's possible.
$50 spent a week per person on food for the poorest to survive on the stipend alone can make it quite healthfully, invariably. Going to the grocery store is more like going to the farmer's market. Some people do grow and raise their own food. In fact, many do. You can even skip the process entirely by having the gray sledge pumped into the food recycler where the raw ingredients are made from garbage for human consumption before your very eyes. You have to assemble them. Your stipend will cover $200 of the cost of
In Utopia, your food is made from recycled garbage.
a month. That's a lot of sledge for food. Food is cheap. In our conversion, if this was modern money, a loaf of bread would cost 5 cents even in this futuristic 13th century. The point is that nobody is really poor here. What they consider poor is what we would call upper middle class in a gated community with a 2-story house and a 2-car garage. That's the lowest rung of society. People elect to live in a nice apartment in the city to save money.
Does he really think apartments in a big city are cheaper than renting in the suburbs? Because in most cases, that is not the case. Thank God, this one's almost over. Really? The hell part was that? That was part 2? That was only part 2. Was that really only part 2? Because, oh my God. Or did we just do part 3? Oh yeah, we just did part 3. I remember that view. That was a terrible view. Like, why does he just not get into position before he turns his camera on, for God's sake? It's so gross. Yeah, we get to go into a new shirt for the readings. Apparently he changed shirts at some point. Yeah, we get to look at this look now.
Wound, pages 48
He looks like a pine cone.
through 60. People are not allowed to own land until they can serve in the assembly at the age of 16. Royals serve for life until they resign.
And he can't even keep track of his own fantasy world. Did you see how many times he had to pause to figure out what the hell he was talking about?
To an abdicate, where the representative subject populace votes their termination. All abdicates have to be approved by the Royal House of Senators and the representative subject populace. The Senate meets in House every Tuesday and Thursday via video conference. They meet on Wednesday among the International Cooperative House. Each meeting lasts from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. The cooperative holds to a 3-day weekend. Monday is used for what we typically refer to as paperwork. Cooperative citizens work a 4-day week though most businesses are open 24/7, 365. It is not expected that anyone works on Fridays because of the weekly dance, though most schedules rotate work time, so everyone is guaranteed at least 2 Fridays off a month. The representative subjects can log on to the Senate in-house at any time, receive notifications for votes. A full work week is 32 hours a week, 46 weeks a year, 6 weeks of vacation time at 4 days a week. The minimum pay is $20 per hour in our money, with a take-home of $10 in a world where an average $5 meal costs 25 cents.
Oh, I'm sorry, Wern world? Wern world? Well, thank you.
Everyone is bloodbound to Charlemagne when he converted to Socrates on the winter equinox of the
fuck?
year 800, and he declared that every royal must marry a subject. He also adopted the direct democratic monarchy system to guarantee a thinking Senate and representative. Marital bonds united the kingdoms via a tie to the peasant class by blood and matrimony. Charlemagne adopted a system of uniting and diplomacy over war and conquest. As you can see, 800 AD had more in common with 1700 AD. This Charlemagne was less Attila the Hun and more Benjamin Franklin. 400 years later, and we have a completely different world that's been at peace for 20 generations. In our time, this was the period of the Crusades and the Norman.
Like, what was that comparison? What was that comparison? Charlemagne was less Attila the Hun and more Benjamin Franklin? What? I don't understand what he's implying.
Conquest as Christianity and Islam vied for position in Europe and the Middle East. Since Socrates was so knowledgeable, reasonable, and logical, no one made up the Jesus or Muhammad myths to fill a void. The Bible itself does not exist. The Torah does not extend it into any sort of New Testament. Many Jews saw Charlemagne
Bitch, he said this in the last chapter. Why is he doing it again?
as the Messiah and converted to Socrates, even though Charlemagne is not officially accepted as any kind of god, since Socrates does not have any god. The Quran was not even written. Most Arabs also converted from tribal roots through diplomatic talks after 800. The religion of Socrates used to include 90% of civilization, though it has waned for technological advancement and lectures on science with high entertainment value. People prefer specifics, and with that, religion begins to wane. Even a religion like Socrates, with a 1700-year history, no gods, embracing nonviolent means of conversation in science. People are individualistic and independent within the realm and prefer decision-making over dogmatic mannerisms. People like doing things on their own. A lot of people have traded religion for a Bible of sorts and the book of everything useful, but
he literally did this in, like, part 2. I'm going to skip it. I don't want to hear it again.
Card. The nap rooms are like those Japanese coffin-sized hotel rooms. They each provide a 7-foot-long bed and a pillow and a fleece blanket. Patrons may sleep or rest for 2 hours. The libraries by law must provide at least 10 beds, but at most, the larger libraries provide access to 20 beds. Taxes pay for all the services the library system has to offer. Patrons generously also donate to the library so much funding that 3 meals are served per day. The libraries are open 24/7,
This is like
365.
He's just describing his life as a bum. Ugh.
Sponsored by the government are raucous. While the tone might be classical with medieval minstrel music, these are hardly ballroom dances. The slower stuff is at the tempo of Johnny B. Good, while the quickest rave techno outside London in the early 2000s. That good old scratchy harpsichord of Vivaldi and Bach meets the syncopation of Tupac Shakur.
Okay, first of all, harpsichords aren't scratchy. What the fuck is wrong with your ears?
In the easiest way to describe it. Throw in a little Def Leppard stylings in some measure, and we're reaching the insanity were you not to remember Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody, because almost every symphony is in movements to last a good 10 minutes in each piece.
What does that have to do with Queen or Bohemian Rhapsody, which was only about 7 minutes long anyway?
It would be like if Beethoven met every party anthem from 1970 to 2015.
That sounds terrible.
These are the fast movements, to be sure. This is no slow dance. People are here to cut a rug from 9 p.m. to 3 a.m.
Cut a rug? Who says that anymore?
At a stretch. Women who attend have to be between 16 to 25 years old and men from 35 to 55 years old. This is a mating dance to find a spouse and to have children one day.
It's a mating dance.
The Friday dance is the hottest club every week. The food can be bought on a food stipend card. There's as much variety as a state fair. Women past 25 aren't allowed to get married or have kids. This is the one point in life where you are given a chance. There's a bar as stocked as any today. Men wait for this dance for 35 years. The dance teaches mature adult behavior while providing the wildest tradition 52 nights a year. It doesn't get much better than Friday nights in the realm in every city and town on the planet. The electricity at no time necrotizes one day a weekend. Condoms are sitting to grab from bowls in every food stand around the stage for no charge. The music is so loud every child is required to take sign language even through graduate school for at least an hour a day from age 3, the purpose of which is explicitly understood as a means to reproduce in the decibel-rich mating ritual to find a partner. There is no sex at the dance. Self-flying cars connect the city as ride shares. Gays are not discriminated against for population control. The dancing is wild. There are spins, slides, dips, do-se-dos, flips, and new improvements at every thrust.
Wait, did he just say gays were for population control? Sure, Lucas. Whatever.
The urgency echoes the black dance parties of the 1950s in our version of America. Think Dirty Dancing. There are kicks, fake-outs, scrams, boogies, snaps, waltzing, and all at the same dance on the same day every week. Party hardy. You have until you're 26, woman. This is the one zazzle you have to marry a man. These dances are not like going to the club in 2017 with lights, predictable syncopation, and prissy girlfriends hooking up with douchebaggy clones. This is early...
That's some really specific anger there, little buddy.
Rock and roll on the wood rafters and sweat before Elvis had his pelvis on to the national scene. Before Elvis hulaed his pelvis onto the national scene. Here the lighting is minimal white light that neither strobes nor reflects off the disco ball, glitter, tinsel, or any mirror. The syncopation is rock and roll, not hip-hop. There are many time and key changes. The rhythm is triple fast. The instruments are always harpsichord, hand drum with mallet, lute, flute, and shawm. The quintet is jazzy though classical in feel. When the days are warm, the dance is held outside until midnight, followed by a half-hour intermission and a convening indoors until 3 a.m., preceded by a 2:30 to 3 o'clock slowdown until an ushering of dancers to the door.
What the fuck?
Food is always served indoors with tables in a gym size that of a football field.
In a gym size that of a football
field.
field.
On the lobby floor at the castle on the dance floor. The outdoor section is on a dirt paddock covering a 1.5 miles in back of the building surrounding by a chain link fence. The harpsichord is on wheels
chain link.
Carefully indoors at the interval.
Fancy.
There are living quarters in this castle from floor 1000 up until the 1500. The first floor contains
Dude, the last time you mentioned the castle, you literally said it was a hotel, so...
restaurants and bars along with the dance hall and lounge area. Almost everyone in the city lives in this one building. The lower to elite class live here. The schools are here. The exercise gyms are here. The royalty live in the top part of this 5-mile tall building, 1.5 miles wide. 50,000 live in the Castle Marseille building. The scene is similar in bigger cities which are
Oh, we're back to Castle Marseille in Paris.
aren't quaint agricultural and farming villages. The big established countries in Europe and Britannia, Hispaniola, also known as Spain in our timeline, France and Germania, which is Germany in our timeline, Italia, which is Italy,
You really think that needed
and
explaining?
Egypt, which is a combination of Greek and Egypt.
Great.
The rest of
So I get Germania and Italia, but what? Greek Egypt, a combination of Greek and Egypt, because those two things go together like that. We got Boss York, we got Greek Egypt. Oh my god. Just what the goddamn. Okay, the rest of that boring ass chapter was worth it for Greek Egypt. We got people from Greek Egypt and from Boss York up here. Technically, I think in Oliver Dangle's world, I'd be somewhere north of Boss York. Greek Egypt. God damn.
Europe are small village countries. There's 1 square mile, 0.5 of land technically owned by the Marquises and Marquises for the farmers market.
Do you mean Marquis?
Every Saturday from
Not
April
Marquis?
to October.
Like that's the Marquis or the Rebel, the
Include
Deep
market
Space Nine. No.
buses. It is open from 8 a.m. to
Egypt.
1 a.m. Friday largely is for Socrates, but only a 10th study at the Socrates nucleus, open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Most people just stay home or recreation.
Most people just stay home or
The homeless
recreation.
shelter is really a traveler lodge. Some people go to escape the chaos of a home for a break. There are people who
The chaos of
the
a home.
countryside with no more than a backpack.
Look, the only chaos in my home is in mostly the form of a almost 6-month-old puppy and a couple of 7 or 8-month-old cats. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any chaos in my home. Maybe that bird's a little chaotic sometimes too.
There is the trouble of population growth, and there is a solution of building the castle bigger. Parts are assembled nearby and
Population growth, building bigger.
The chateau
Jesus,
look of the entire structure and the miles and miles of land unused across France and every
You're
other
like
part
my
of
chips.
the world opens plenty of space to expand the building of the castle as people breed. Couples
And
are
my chips.
expected to only have 1 child. Those who do not follow the rules and have their second child taken away and given to a needy couple in another.
Excuse me, what? So he's got a 1-child policy in place. And if you have a second child, the state takes it away to give it to a needy couple. Lucas actually does have wavy hair. He probably just didn't brush it straight for these. I don't think he realizes what he just said there, but okay.
City.
Oh, darn. At least they're getting sort of shorter. I'm going to do at least one more. Okay, this is part 5, and basically the only reason I'm saying this is part 5 is because I'm not going to remember where I cut this off. So at least if I say it somewhere in here, I can maybe like skim through my own live replay and figure out where the hell I need to pick up. Oh, I hate this shirt, and I hate the fact that he slicked his hair down.
Wow.
Looks like a butternut squash.
Part 5, pages 61 through 76. The population of France at this time is 500,000.
France.
Let's keep it closer to that way. That's the policy of the Royal Cooperative. The people have decided to keep population growth low and have done so since near the founding on Winter Giving Day, December 21st, 800.
What?
The actual writ was ratified on
You
Summer
can't.
Giving Day Eve of 805.
You dumb fuck. If you're trying to world build, you have to be linear. And I understand that time is not time is. I won't get into that, but time is not linear. It's just observed that way by whatever. But if you're trying to do world building and introduce people to the world of your fantasy thing, you have to do it in a linear fashion. You can't go all like full on wormhole prophets and just start spouting random things at random times and expect anyone's going to understand what the fuck you're talking about. I understand it because I worked supporting people with technology for a very long time, so I can generally translate nonsense fairly well on the fly because of that. So I kind of basically grasp the order he means to be telling this shit, and it makes more sense that way. But most people can't think like that, and even with me thinking in that fucked up non-linear way that I tend to do, I still miss half of it because even he doesn't know what he's doing. But like, if you're trying to world build, part of it is building the world, and you can't do that by just like flinging random shit. Would you get your entire body out of that chips bag, cat? Dude, you get up. You know what? Fine. She just took a cat, put her whole body in the bag of chips next to me, took a huge mouthful of chips, and ran off. Did you share one with the puppy? Oh, and she shared one with the puppy. Great, this is a dog under my chair eating chips with a cat. Okay, that's at least they're just normal potato chips. He's got like butternut squash head in this one.
There hasn't been a violation of the one-child policy since the 10th century. People are well entrenched in the rules.
Kidding my ass, she's 11 years old.
They themselves can change in a semi-autonomous Marseille. Where we went outward with area expansion through war, they went inward with technological advancement through peace. The last war was never fought, it was argued. One fortitude are the Sunday debates for fun among the subjects. They debate just to hone their discussion skills and self-representatives. Each debate lasts about an hour, and there are 5 a day before the weekend concludes. The debate is monitored and scored by crowd noise down in the paddock rounds of oration, whereby each side has 10 minutes of unhindered speech with rebuttals. This is like a deaf debate jam. It's not entirely for fun. The loser has to buy the winner a dinner. The cost is only about $5 for a gourmet steak that in our world would cost $100, but that's how it is when you keep your population down and your tech up. You could start your own homestead in the countryside and get a voucher for up to 5 children to work the land.
What the fuck was that about? God, he's really bloated.
Most dudes are excited enough to date 18-year-old women at 35. And an avouchment of ordnance. The castle is largely a huge indoor town with the size of Olympia, Washington. Every city-sized building is the same size or smaller by averages. The most populous castle is
He's so bad at this. Like, he's so bad at this. He's retconned what the castle was 3 times already. Because, like, first it was a castle, then it was a hotel, and now it's just, like, an indoor city? Like, how are you this bad at explaining your...
With 100,000 people. This is capital city of the cooperative. Each country averages out at 3 or 4 city castles, and to travel to each country averages out at 3 or 4 city castles, and to travel is to love. The castles look like villas, or in other words, they look like very tall, scrawny houses. They're actually quite thick from bum to cabeza. Nothing exuberant, just the chateau. Don't fret the music. It's just the harpsichord equivalent of Avenged Sevenfold meets Tool in terms of tempo and note variants. Then we'll go eat a rustic meal of Chateaubriand, new potatoes, and a vegetable pairing with a dram.
He just described like noisy trash. Because that's what a harpsichord meets Tool would be, just noisy trash.
Zinfandel for $2.50. Nobody here looks 25th century, and yet 800 years ago saw a city on the moon and a Mars landing. You get the feel the time machine went in two directions at once. They're winding up their cars like toys, and yet they're zipping out of the buildings at 1,500 miles per hour.
That's not safe.
Marseille 1200 is an aberrance. 400 million Homo sapiens from pole to pole wouldn't have a clue how not to pity your unfortunate breath. You'd be issued a stipend and a choice between Traveler's Lodge or an apartment. Fresh out of the hit sitcom Frasier with $200 left each month, where a meal is 20 times less than $500 video game system, and all other purchases would cost half as much.
His comparisons are just like so out of fucking left field. Like, you can almost see that his brain is starting to overheat.
That $200 on food would press as $4,000 a month with a year to work it all down before a reboot. Your dinner parties would net you a friend base in no time. Very quirky place for an outsider, and yet a very logical site to peer the dreams of progression. The mindset of cooperates is that everything, even philosophy, can be put into a scientific context and can be examined through science. The trouble with religion is that the minute you begin doubting the metaphysical view, especially God, by remembering bad...
Okay, this is like the fourth time he's gone over some version of this, so I'm skipping a bunch of shit.
Doesn't make any sense.
That doesn't make any sense.
If his father dies and he's the oldest. Their spouses also become senator nobles. Upon death, a new senator noble is elected. Now, that part doesn't make any sense.
None of it makes any sense.
The spouses are also senator nobles. Castle Marseille has 5 neighborhoods, each led by a baron or baroness. Dukes and duchesses lead what we would call a state.
Okay, this is like the third time he's gone over this, too.
Royalty are elected by the people.
Oh my god!
We'll have to check this.
Who's we?
Five times. We'll have to check this. 5 times the volume of Burj Khalifa in Dubai.
Is he making this up as he's going along?
Check that. The volume of Burj Khalifa in Dubai. The castle is well equipped to house over...
Lucas is definitely a case for the involvement of some benevolent higher power, keeping him as inept as he is so he can't actually get what he wants.
100,000 people. 50,000 live in Castle Marseille with apartments for 100,000. The mall is every bit as impressive as the Mall of America. Gray Sledge Recycling makes any consumer...
Dude, the Mall of America is not impressive. It really isn't impressive. It's just not. No.
Products, from computers to stuffed animals and flying cars in many styles. The University of Marseille, though indoors, has an outdoorsy look with live plants and animals.
He's already gone over this too.
Beautiful and lusher and green.
Jesus Christ.
In the last 2 yards. Everyone is housed in the same size apartment with the exact same design. The royalty is no different except they live on the highest level with their family of...
The royalty is no different except for this difference. Yeah, we've already done this.
One child. Caesar had originally planned to sack the center of knowledge, though got sidetracked by a freak storm. The Socrati in Greece heard about this affront to wisdom.
Is this when they turned into
began
Grecian?
to attract a swarm of new adherents, unexpectedly growing into a religion. The nucleus, as their church began to be called, the Socratian nucleus, sponsored great pilgrimages to Alexandria to read at the library. By the time Rome fell to Germania, there was a direct democracy in league with the monarchy.
What in the goddamn hell is this?
There were changes in literature and architecture we didn't see in our world until the 1420s. Charlemagne spread peace and unity. By 1200, there was democratic socialism, flying cars, and food recycling into almost everything people ate, with a society without fuel source built on torque. There are 7 of these exact mega castles in France. Each castle is a different looking chateau that is distinct 1200s France. In our time period, Dante would have written in this century. The Terran version was written in the early 5th century, or early 6th century, and it was from the Socratic perspective with neither heaven nor hell.
Oh my God.
And it caused exactly that, a revolution. An ABC meter. The poem is wrapped on stage with music, though Abad is not regarded as a playwright, since the play did not make it to the stage until the 700s, after a couple centuries only read by fans quietly. The play was said to have moved Charlemagne to tears that in 800, when the monks met with him at a library in underground
What in the hell is this?
The world under the banner of the 5 Socratic precepts of science. 1. Observation. 2.
Read the
experimentation. 3. Skepticism.
Read the
4.
room.
Falsification. And 5. Verification.
What in the hell? So that was mostly just him rehashing parts 2, 3, and 4. Oh, that's a good shot of his hair. Why is it so early? It's early. It's early. That means I can't justify doing this by like, no, I gotta be at work in the morning, which I actually do work tomorrow. Kitty, you are fine. Wow, that's a great thumbnail. Oh! No, thank you.
Wound, Part 6, pages 77 to 85.
Yeah.
The nucleus of the Socrati did much to bring world peace. It overshadowed the ancient world so much so Christianity and Islam never formed. The path is wide. 5,000 Marseille citizens worship under monks every Friday.
Marseille.
It is larger than Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, Shintoism, and Buhara combined. Is the most astronomical creed on Terra. Is 1,700 years old, and yet it stands at 1/10 of the population. Indian style, row after row, listening to
Indian style
microphones, preaching like hip-hop boys in hoods and flat-bill baseball caps with well gestures like on Deaf Poetry Jam, and
really
never broke 10% in centuries or wavered from 1 out of 10 Terrans as adherents for 300 years. The clergy are all monks with no hierarchy. 5 monks preach on a small stage for an hour a week. They manage every library in the world.
That's
the
horrible.
religion is neither growing nor is it shrinking. The monks wear a full-bodied hooded brown fleece robe with the hood covering a gray flat-bill cap with a red symbol of a chalice.
So they're a bro in a bathrobe? That is an extremely specific outfit. I mean, that's like weirdly specific. I guess if you want to impress Lucas, you just dress up like that.
Represents Socrates drinking the hemlock instead of leaving Athens. The monks are allowed to get married and have kids. Women are allowed to become monks. Their holy book is every book in the library.
Their holy book is all the books.
From drinking by taking marijuana as a sacrament to have visions.
That's I don't know what kind of weed he's smoking that gives him visions, but the kind I'm got here, it doesn't do vision. It makes things a little bit funnier than they should be and makes Lucas kind of bearable, but I wouldn't say they're giving me visions. I mean, I see what it is, but if it's giving you visions, you might want to switch to something else.
Moderate their intake to no more than a 10-gram cellophane joint a day. Although plastic does not exist, hemp polymers do. The polymer is called a lacis, which may as well be plastic. Pardon the misinterpretation.
Did he misinterpret his own shit?
Monks can begin preaching from the nucleus at the age of 15.
So there's a little bistro cafe place that's like a 2-block walk from where I live that's called the Nucleus. And that's all I can think of every time he says nucleus here. His hair looks extra disgusting. Oh, I bet it feels like a beetle shell.
We have an agreement with the indigenous people of North and South America not to settle their lands if they agree to let us plant trees and hemp in what we call New York State, which today in 1200 covers a...
Why would Central and South America give 3 fucks if we were growing hemp in New York? Is he implying would be cutting them off as the main import source for it, or did they patent it? Why would that specific area of the world be upset at the U.S. growing hemp in New York?
More circular swath of New York and a little more to form a half tree, half hemp location.
Half tree, half hemp?
Cooperative forest. The rest of North America is a refuge to the native and is such unmeddled with by the civilized world. We have the exact same thing.
My God. Did he... I want to make sure I heard that right.
By the civilized world, cooperative forest. The rest of North America is a refuge to the native and is such unmeddled with by the civilized world.
So the rest of the U.S. was given back to the natives, in Lucas's word. And then he goes on to say untouched by the civilized world, which it's not racist at all. It's not a really, really, really obvious implication that they weren't what you would consider civilized. Lucas the ally, everybody. He's not racist, he's an edgy comedian.
We have the exact same thing in Venezuela called the Equatorial Royal Cooperative Forest. Both New Royal and Equatorial provide all the wood and hemp the cooperative will need for a very long time. The growing method allows the trees to reach the 30-year mark in 1 year, and the next part of that time the trees grow at a normal rate.
What?
The stellarnauts will have to wind the ship for 1 minute every 12 hours, which means...
Why?
Archimedes, duh.
Archimedes, duh. God.
In 4 months, we'll have to wind the ship 244 times to get the torque to remain charged.
What?
What?
No, seriously, what?
On all cooperative devices, there is an analog display at 60 minutes left before the device will shut down. Then the lights up at that 11th hour mark when the winder must begin to crank the device up to 1 minute or face
what the fuck is he talking
shutdown
about?
At hour 12. Everything runs this way from food processors to the
Can I choose to just shut down and not have to deal with this?
Electritus. In our world, there were crank cars that did not use gasoline in the year 1920. It's no different here in Marseille and everywhere except wider spread, more efficient, and the crank is usually smaller and inside the vehicle.
The
The
vehicle.
gas pedals are replaced with speed and brake mechanisms activated by grip in the steering wheel, while the crank is where the shifter used to be. It is recommended that the driver pull over to wind the vehicle for safety reasons and the law. Archimedes' duh is 600
Archimedes'
feet by 30
duh.
feet and shaped like a rifle bullet. It is sprayed bronze in color. Archimedes' is on the moon. It is white. At top speed, Archimedes' duh is traveling
Archimedes'
at around 12,000 miles an hour. It is designed to crash on Mars were it not for the flame retardant parachute that ought to put Archimedes about 50 feet.
Which ship is it? Archimedes, duh.
Return launcher to
God damn it, Lucas.
30 by 30 by 15 living pods and 30 by 60 by 15 research lab and a Marsmobile where the Stellarnauts will work for 6 months before returning home.
What? Okay. Do you mind getting a little off track there?
The Stellarnauts will be away from Terra for 14 months.
You said 6 months
The
before.
Archimedes was preceded by a series of stellar bots that are 32 shipping carriers in the numerical order under the name Helios, Un, Helios Du, Helios Dwa, etc. The Helios payloads dropped one package a day on Mars for 32 days in a row after the same 4-month journey. The last payload dropped yesterday. Archimedes' duh landed today, 14 hours from the last payload. The average surface temperature of Mars is negative 29 degrees Fahrenheit.
Lucas talk French good.
The zone is a balmy 12 degrees Fahrenheit. The payloads will have to be wound and thawed, most importantly the gray sludge, the basis of their food for the next 10 months. 20 of the payloads assembly into the launcher to Terra by growing arms and legs in robotic fashion and climbing on step ballasts until each piece locks into place for a vertical mile. The piece packaging assembles into a launch ball to Deimos and Phobos that splits in half and lands on each of Mars' moons and reassembles again on each one into radio transmitters that strengthen the signal from Mars back to Terra. The 12 other payloads assemble the research facility, living quarters, food supplies, and radio.
None of this makes sense. Like, he's just rambling. He's like saying words, but he's not saying anything.
Tower on Mars. Not only does the radio tower transmit to Terra, it transmits a signal.
They probably just say it as cat.
Signal into outer space 3,100 times the speed of light, with a gain-assisted superluminal propagator built by the 2 doctors aboard the ship. The signal will reach Centauri and back in 26.4 hours prior to send. The receiver will lie dormant for 2 days. It was decided the most mathematically understandable signal is music. The Mars FTL transmitter will play a selection of Terran harpsichord hard dance music enjoyed by the Friday night dance crowd back in Marseille. One mission while on Mars for 6 months is to locate extraterrestrial intelligence by way of warp radio quantum tunneling, or RACT. W-R-A-Q-T, spelled RACT, R-A-C-K-E-D. There are people without jobs who live on the stipend alone. No one ever complains about freeloaders because everyone receives the same stipend from those with nothing to the Marquis of Marseille, who is the billionaire entrepreneur who Archimedes built, as well as the Mach 3.
Archimedes duh gets to go with Oliver Dangle and Rowdy Rodriguez. He can't pronounce anything French. Like, would you not just, like, maybe listen to some pronunciations first, so maybe you could try?
Brain Alacritus. Some of these jobless few travel the 7 cities of France or outside the country, eating fine food and staying in the free traveler lodges looking for beautiful women to talk to while the winder keeps their refrigerator running. That $200 rent only amounts to $400 in our money, and a monthly train voucher is $100 or half what's left of the terrari, or $100 or $200 in our cash is about 100 terrari short of the need for a prostitute and fading happiness. Even with the temptation to not work, only 0.1% of the population able to work, not including children, retirees, and the gravely disabled, remain willfully unemployed, and that is their right. In Marseille, this is 50 people.
Marseille.
40 of these people are between 16 and 30. The rest are between 31 and 59. 60 is their retirement age. All drugs are legal, so these 50 largely stay within a network to hang out, have sex, smoke mostly cannabis, and to keep out of jail and explore possibilities. Mental illness is not a grave disability, since with naturopathic remedies, some of which cure Mental illness is not a grave disability, since with naturopathic remedies, some of which cure cancer, a person with neurolepsis, mental illness is called neurolepsis in this world, can almost always, 98.734% of the time, be cured of brain disorders leading to neurolepsis. These 50 once had mental illness symptoms, but they're treated so they don't seem anything less than normal. These particular 50 are sometimes called watchers because they people watch. They survive on 200 terrari after all bills are paid. This is their fun money.
That's horrible. Yeah, he's just projecting his own shitty life into somehow an even shittier fantasy. What'd you do, puppy? Well, if you wouldn't run after the cat, you would be able to stop before she jumped out of your way and you hit the wall. That seems like your fault. Yeah, he writes himself out of his own fantasies, and that's just always so funny to me. You must really hate yourself to make sure you don't get laid in your own fantasies. Maybe that is his fantasy. Is to just be mad all the time about not getting. Cat, remove your body from the bag. Stop that. Hey. I can see you with the chip in your mouth. You're eating it right next to me. You rude little bitch. You incredibly rude. She's maintaining eye contact when she eats the chip she stole from me. And then she knocks half of it down to the dog. Listen, ma'am. Yeah, it's these are his fantasies, and he still can't get laid in any of them. I don't know. Do I want to do part 7? Yeah, part 7's the last green shirt one. Hi. Please don't climb that. You're not a cat. Oh, that's classy. Good angle.
Wow.
Ugh.
Part 7.
Ugh.
Pages 86 through 101. The Watchers complain a lot about being bored and don't do anything about it unless they're partying. The Watchers explore the castle and try to have a good time on a monthly food credit of $4,000 and $400 cash.
Wait, who spends $4,000 a month on food? How much food is he buying? He's just gonna keep. Can't open the bag after I close it. I mean, clearly she can, but $4,000 a month for food.
Their credits are good in any restaurant in France and the cash at any store. The Food credits are not good on alcohol. The watchers contribute a lot of reviews of eateries and activities like sports and arcades over the internet. The internet from French translates to breeze weave, and breeze weaving is the act of using the internet. Most people have no excuse not to partake in delicious French and ethnic food from outside of France. Really, no one has an excuse to not learn how to cook well with $4,000 food credits a year. $48,000 food credits a year, in the form of 2,400 terrare. The watchers are often artists. Some are pursuing careers in music.
I feel like he said this
To be
before.
honest, most of these unemployed musicians are horrible. They know nothing about weaving a beat and a poem together.
Neither do
They
you,
don't have
fat
the money
fuck.
to hire professionals. They treat women poorly. They act like they think they're cool, and a lot have been to jail from...
Tell me your entire school career wasn't being bullied by jocks without telling me your entire middle school career was being bullied by jocks.
a day to a couple years because they disrupt the peace. Their clothing customary ranges from literal court gestures in the opposite gender to ancient Greeks and naked covered in tattoos, which is all legal, though restaurants are allowed to have a dress code.
What?
The monks with their long brown fleece robes and flat-billed gray caps aren't allowed in the best restaurants dressed like this, which is where everyone tries to eat because 50,000 Marseillers can afford it even on a stipend. But even the monks must dress in normal 13th century clothing in order to enjoy a chez Monique, for instance, in that 13th century attire is the same in our lifetime, or timeline. That 13th century attire is the same in our timeline. The monks are really good at rapping. They're the best rappers in the kingdom.
Oh,
Imagine
well.
the fastest rappers on earth doing call and response rap in French to a quick harpsichord lute.
What the fuck?
And wooden flute. Rhyming is how Socratic monks spread their message. You take 5 guys and gals and put them on an 18-foot long half circle with microphones rapping 3 pieces at breakneck speed for 15 minutes surrounded by 5,000 people sitting on the floor, followed by 60 minutes of the same pieces slowed 4 times to normal talking speed, and you're in awe about how the dictate of Socrates hasn't grown in 3 centuries.
What the fuck was that thought process? What? Is he just like actively deteriorating in these videos?
It's behooving, however.
Behooving?
Because the service unwaveringly begins at 6 in the morning. 5,000 Marseillais adherents make the time. 50,000 are given the Book of Everything Useful, which may as well be a religious text, has no connections to Socrates.
You can kind of see the bald spot shining through there.
The book is a hardcover, over 2,000 pages.
You've already described your stupid book.
But most read the book from the breezeweave script and the Antikythera mechanism. The most popular equations are those describing torque and torsion.
Why do I feel like he's already explained this too?
In a clockpunk society, that isn't surprising, though the biology equations and the equations describing dopamine in relation to adrenaline, cortisol, and serotonin in neurolepsis, bipolar, and neurolepsis, schizophrenia are beautiful psychiatric formulae. There's a naturopathic cure listed for HIV, which spread from African exploration. Bringing the Socratic nucleus up to date with a 10 a.m. sermon, but the vast majority rip the notion as lazy, and science isn't for the lazy. Another drawback is that the monks are kind of rude. Unless you're cheering every Friday or checking out a book up yours, they're quite vulgar. It's not enough that you're a rationalist dogma. You have to be crass to everyone who disagrees with your methodology. The king himself held a symposium for the Socratic monks, and because it was suggested they lower their hoods for their sermon, and after a huddle of all 35 of them, mooned the king of illustrious France.
What? I don't even know where to begin to make fun of that. It's... What in the fuck is happening?
The monks are the go-to guys for the day-by-day latest in science and mathematics. They're respectful towards everyone and are polite as can be, but most of the time. But if you question the idiosyncratic minutiae of their screed, these people are the most hypocritical pieces of work ever to occupy your day. They do allow critiques in their library, probable because
Do you think he's bitching about what he thinks Christians are like here?
the government monitors the library system and books are like a drug to the monks of Socrates. The followers aren't the most objective when it comes to their own piety, even though it is an underpinning of Socrates to remain objective. But Christians aren't exactly the most loving by far in our chronology.
So you just outright... He's just like a failure at literally everything he does.
It might be esoteric to point out that Socrates would
It might be esoteric to point out.
be willing to have less Socratics at the bramble. Socrates is an atheistic faith. Mostly atheism is cool in the Royal Cooperative, and Socrates really is the only religious beacon for structure and purpose
His brain doesn't work.
available for atheists in conjunction to be a religion in the first place. They're liberal and accepting of Socratics, but what usually draws people to atheism besides the assertion that God doesn't exist is religion as a degrading indulgence. The monks' recordings can be downloaded for free. They're award-winning. The one requirement is the loosest is that you accept.
What?
The one requirement in the loosest is that you accept Jesus Christ as your personal savior to consider yourself.
No, because one video back when he was re-explaining this religious crap again, he said Christianity and Jesus Christ never existed. Why are you bringing it up here? It's just, keep your own world building straight. He claims he wrote over 300 pages of this.
Christian. The one requirement at the base to consider yourself Socrates is that you attend services every week. If you don't, they make an announcement to the flock that you will have to sit in the back of the nucleus with your back to the stage for the service label. A pathogen. That's what they call you if you sin. They call you a pathogen. The condescension doesn't stop there. They'll also roll a die with only ones and twos every time you sign up for a nucleus activity that day. Ones mean no, twos mean yes. Everyone sees the judgment, of course, so everyone shares in the silent derision of the pathogen to the philosopher. The philosopher
Oh my god, this is so stupid.
the word slowing down the conversion.
Nobody cares.
Now a nice sized sushi and teriyaki fine dining establishment recently built into the mall. Patience is an inherent trait of the patience is an inherent trait of the watchers, but since they're all been in jail at least twice, they're learning the subtle act of forbearance when visiting the more entertaining sections of the municipality.
They've all been in jail at least twice.
The baroness of this neighborhood is known for being a bit of a hard ass. Time has taught the watchers some respect. There's still a bunch of street toughs.
I think he's writing it as we go.
Their expectations, the watchers like to tend to cop.
Oh my god, Lucas.
From the inspired. The inspired are polite and keep to themselves.
You already explained this.
Named after famed chef owner Boto Hamagumi. Got shut down because people agreed with them that Oscar's German grill in Delhi had poor qualities from being too rich to undercooked meat.
What the fuck? This is killing my brain cells. I don't know what he's talking about. And it's not even... He's repeating the same thing. I think we've only watched one video, and all the other videos have been him, like, retconning the one before it. Ugh. I hate seeing that thumbnail first thing. Oh, here's the Dr. Phil one where he thought someone from Dr. Phil had called him. This is a song, and it's terrible. Is this... like, make a thumbnail. Kiwi farms are cowards. Ah, what we started with. And then here's kind of where he split. But yeah, he was not happy about the Tosh thing. This one is just nasty because he was kind of talking about like trying to purposely pick up other women in the psych ward when he was staying there. So that was like extra gross. This one is interesting because it's the first one he made after getting out of the psych ward. You can see there's about a year difference between the last one and this one. But this one is so dull because he's just completely. Actually, I'm going to show a bit of this one just because it shows how even when he was like doped to the gills on psych meds, he still had the same thought processes.
So I've decided to go back to school, and I've chosen to go back to Spokane Falls Community College. I kind of figure with so many nursing students, they must offer some good science programs, right? I like to be a quantum physicist. I'd like to get my doctorate in either astrobiology or temporal physics. By the time I'm 50,
or temporal physics.
To do this.
Temporal physics or quantum, whatever. Yeah, that doesn't require any math, and he was complaining that the intro to math classes were too difficult for him. But yeah, he wants to go into those fields.
If it doesn't work out with Allie, the nice Christian chick that became my friend, then there's always a possibility of next fall hooking up with what I'm looking for in a woman. That's youth. I like millennials. I don't like how millennials only seem to date millennials, and nobody really wants to know what Generation X thinks. They want to know what millennials and baby boomers think.
But yeah, anyway, this one was just like drugged Lucas. But it's yeah. You know what? I'm gonna make y'all watch the titty video.
I don't know if it really occurred to anybody else, but the millennials really have more in common with the Republicans than anything
This is like a great point of view. You wake up in Lucas's apartment.
else. I mean, especially these chicks born in the 1990s, they really only stick to hanging out with people born in the 1990s, kind of like white people in the KKK.
Not really.
They hang out with white people or even whiter people. I mean, their whole age segregation thing on the dating sites and in the real world is no different from the white power organizations, except despite
Lucas, start leaning over the stupid stove.
I mean, personally,
I don't know what the hell he's making, but
or she wanted to have fun, and she was willing to let me pretend that I had power because she was so far beyond me.
What is he?
It was more like grabbing and touching my face.
Look at how disgusting that countertop is.
Calm down, but there's no real. I didn't really feel that she was really my girlfriend or any of those older women. It was kind of like I was dating them because I didn't get along with women my own age because it was like dating my mom. And older women.
Women his own age were like dating his mom.
Were good friends until the rules get broken just the same, and they never forgive, and it's like your heart stops because you have to like.
He only lived there for 6 months, and it's that filthy.
That you're a worthy guy, and from the dating.
His big old titties coming back in. Look at that. He thought it was a good idea to post this.
Older guys, even though most women dig older guys, they won't even speak to you if they're outside the 25 range, 18 to 25, when you're women 18 to 25. But they know it gives them a headache to date these guys. The guy either has to
Does he just throw mail all over the stove?
Or just be like a guy that is led like a child around the world. So really the age gap relationship for the younger female is much, much younger. It's the only thing that would work, but you got your bigots on the
Like, is he trying to clean? What is he doing here?
And there's no real point. Mom and stepdad aren't like that. It's not like she ever calls him a geek. I remember him leaving once because he was frustrated when I was younger.
Like, is he even cooking anything?
Knowledge that dating people your own age, especially when you're under 35, is bad for your health and bad for the health of your kids. And you'll want to stop because you'll.
Oh wait, there is something on the stove. Looks like plastic.
Relations that are married and there's some blood relation. Small town things are really weird anyway. It's like these people are blood related. Some of them are related by marriage and blood. It seems like there's marriages between third cousins you find out about.
Whatever's in that bowl looks vile. I don't want to know.
Where I grew up.
I don't want to see what's in the bowl. Changed my mind. Yeah, that was when he was still medicated too. Because it was kind of around sort of this time that he got really. This was his first really aggressive one after getting out of the nut house. And then he just kind of get progressively more and more and more and more aggressive until we get down into the ones where he's like screaming and spitting at the camera that people were stealing his research and hoarding the women. That's about the time he decided to stop taking his meds, if you were curious. But yeah, that's all of these. Any of these of him with glasses on, they're all terrible. Yeah. And then this Dr. Phil show one, honestly, I think it was obviously fake, but we'll leave with him being smug about it. If it'll fucking load. Hey, YouTube, knock it off. Ugh. I think I preferred the other screen. Well, apparently we're not going to do anything because YouTube doesn't want to do anything anymore. Oh, well. That's a great. Oh, yeah, okay.
So, I just got this email from what appears to be the Dr. Phil show.
This is another one where his lisp is really pronounced, too.
And there's a phone number with it that they want me to call, but I don't have long distance. So, I'm trying to call from the office where I would call my apartment complex, and then they'd call to the main phone in the TV room, but she doesn't want me to call unless I talk to my counselor. And it's stupid because I'm an adult. I don't need to talk to my counselor about everything. I mean, I'm just going to ask him, what do you think? And he's going to be like, no, what do you think? That's why I'm asking you. So it's pointless because I'm still going to end up wanting to call the number. This guy I have had for a counselor, and he's a good counselor, but I've asked him for like several months, what dating site should I use to meet women that are under 25? And he hasn't given me an answer.
Lucas, my dude, what do you think your therapist's job is? He asked his therapist where he could go to meet young women and was pissed when the therapist was like, I don't fucking know. Like, why would you think that was an appropriate thing to ask your therapist?
At all. I mean, I've asked him, where should I go to meet the women? Where are the women at? Where do I go to meet the women? No answer whatsoever.
Yeah, because that's not a question normal people ask, and he's your therapist.
So if
therapy clearly is not helping in this case.
This is real. I'm going to be on the Dr. Phil show talking about how these intra-ageal couples break down all the time. how younger guys are more sexist, how older guys in Spokane have been using the telomerase information that I've put out there to say that chemically they're more suited to date younger women and also give them stronger offspring, and how the paternal
He's already fantasizing that Dr. Phil will let him talk for more than 2 seconds, too.
aging effect made the 20th century the most violent century, and the older male, younger female pattern is the pattern echoed in all life, where it skips a season with a grain male, or a male that's like the equivalent would be 35 to 55-year-old human males
Sure it would.
only hooking up with women under the age of 26, and then they go down the path of having kids and getting married, because that's the pattern of all life.
In
All
that order?
DNA with two genders on the planet follows that pattern.
Only 2 genders, so much for being an ally.
We're going to talk about that, whether you want to talk about it or not. And
What's
obviously,
consent?
Dr. Phil wants me to call the show. So I'm going to call that number, and I'm going to find out more information about that. If it's a scam, at least I'll know from the phone call. Because it'll be some dude like, you got scammed, and it'll be like, we're really punked. I'm going to be like, oh, so you want me on MTV then? Or it's going to be some dude
Good
being
comeback.
like, you fell for this. Yeah, you lied to me. And me hanging up the phone. Either
You fell for it, haha. Well, you lied to me. Yeah, and you fell for it. His comebacks are the worst.
way, it proves my point that younger males are more immature. And it's going to prove the point that, like, gray-haired old dudes are using information to get laid across Spokane and having girlfriends. I mean, they're out there holding hands with women that I would want to hook up with. So we're going to talk about that. You're on notice.
Oh
I've
no.
talked about this for 8 months. If you want a situation where I have better food and you're a female under the age of 26 and somebody that wouldn't be as sexist as even the Democrat males are,
What is he even ranting about at this point? Like, who said what to you today, Lucas?
talk to me. My name is Lucas Wern. Go to conversationrage.weebly.com. I'm hopefully going to be on the Dr. Phil show talking about this, because this is something that needs to talk about. Telomere attrition. Inbreeding causes it. Breeding with males under the age of 35 causes it.
Oh, I hate that stream with the chicken.
The age of consent to 35 because incest is illegal. Women having sex with younger dudes, when clearly the science says that women mature 11 years sooner. It's like pedophilia. Let's make that illegal too. Let's work on the straight couples before we talk about the age gap between the gay couples, because that might be a completely different chemical matrix.
Jesus fucking Christ.
If you want a better dude that has better food, talk to me. I mean, don't be age phobic. There's nothing to be afraid of. Your kids will have
Like a Michelin man.
Me. I can show you all the information on that. You're going to be in a better chemical balance by being with me. I'm not an ageist. I've already dated older women my own age 4 times each. They're all with older dudes. I'm not mature enough to date women my own age or older. That is not the animal pattern. That's what I've been talking about for 8 months, is these gray-haired old dudes get the pussy all the time, and some of them even have kids now.
He's spiraling.
The information that I put out there, these guys with gray hair with younger women. How dare you? And or you can go with them, some dudes, and like eat crappy food at the House of Charity or the UGM or Salvation Army for all I care. I don't care what you do, but if you want to hang out with me, I would be cooking for you. I can obviously cook. I'll put in a picture of a pot pie that I made a couple years ago. I'm not really doing a lot of cooking now.
I can obviously cook. I'll show you a picture of a pot pie I made 2 years ago. That is not impressive. Nothing about this photo is impressive, but that particular flex on cooking was definitely not impressive.
Because there's no one to cook for. I'm a really great cook. I can cook like roast beef for like 18 hours.
Okay, literally anyone can cook roast beef for 18 hours. You put it in what you're going to cook it in, and you cook it for 18 hours. We've all seen the cheesy cucumbers and the popcorn spaghetti and the ranch dressing and soup with vegetables. We know you can't cook.
At 100 degrees, it'll be awesome while you're eating a Toblerone with your dumb boyfriend that has to borrow money to buy a fucking soda. Whatever you want to do. He's like right there. You want to talk to me, and he's holding you back. That's sexist behavior. It's what I can't stand. It's like all
I
these
love the
dudes
bitterness.
taking on worse behavior than what I'm trying to display. I don't get it.
He doesn't get it, guys. Yeah, those are. Yeah. Those, or the olives that he did with the cheese and that mayonnaise over the overcooked leather T-bone and the lamb with the sriracha mayo. It just, oh, God. Cheese on bok choy. Ugh, just gross. Well, past my animal's bedtime and the dog's looking at me, so I should probably go put him to bed. And I think I've had enough of Lucas for one night as well, because, yeah, it's. God, even the thumbnails are just nasty to look at. All of them. The olives were the worst, and the raw sausages. Oh, the microwaved cucumbers with melted cheese. Just everything. He just fails at everything. It's so amazing. Maybe his talent is failure. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm going to end this and go feed the cats and probably go to bed.